Denver prepares for another wave of migrants. The mayor says the city's getting ready. The numbers say it's already happening. A Coloradan who successfully appealed his property appraisal shows us how it's done. The state Supreme Court could limit the way police search for suspects. My thoughts on whether the governor thinks the rest of us are dumb. And clearing the air, space, over Coors Field, because for once, the home team's putting on a show.
It's probably going to go like really high, probably like near the atmosphere.
That's tonight on Next. Denver could see another significant surge in migrants coming from the southern border. This week, thousands of people have crossed the U.S.-Mexico border. El Paso, Texas, just declared a state of emergency. And already we're starting to see a rise in the number of migrants arriving here. Let's bring in Angeline McCall. And for a while now, Angeline, the folks you're talking to have been telling you that another influx of people is coming.
Yes, people have been telling me this for months, and immigration experts have been predicting this for a while now. Just a combination of good weather and also Title 42 being lifted a week from today. Like you mentioned, Kyle, there are thousands of people at the border right now, and we know that they're going to move and migrate away from the border eventually. To where is really the question. But already we are seeing a rise in the number of new arrivals per day here in Denver. Yesterday, 131 migrants arrived, and today, 99 from the last update we received. At the peak back in January, 271 migrants arrived in one day, meaning we're already halfway to that point. Mayor Hancock says he had been expecting a second string of arrivals before the end of his term, and also told me the city has been preparing for it. So just this week, El Paso declared a state of emergency because of the number of migrants there, and we know that there are thousands at the border. Are you expecting an influx of migrants, and is the city doing anything to prepare?
Yes, we expect that we will see a surge. We've expected this for a while at the conclusion of Title 42. And we are already communicating with partners. We're already trying to determine how best we will respond to that surge. I've talked to my counterparts around the country. They're already seeing a surge. And so there's a great deal of concern. It doesn't let any of us off the hook, and it certainly should be a loud clarion call to the federal government to act.
You can watch our full story with Mayor Hancock here on Next tomorrow, and what the city is asking and trying to do to get ahead of this as well is something that we talked with him about.
So, Angeline, we're familiar with how this worked in late December and into January, but migrants who are arriving now or in the coming weeks or months are going to find a different situation, less access to the shelter system that the city originally set up.
Yes, the policies have changed pretty dramatically. When this first began back in December, everyone was welcomed into the shelters. Since then, Denver has announced that they're only going to allow people who have gone through a port of entry and countered immigration. That rule goes into effect Monday, so just as we're starting to see this surge. And I have talked to nonprofits who are the ones who really welcome them in when they arrive at Union Station or arrive at other locations throughout the city. And they say that they're worried that they're going to be the ones that actually have to say and turn them away or find another alternative besides and outside of the shelter system.
All right, Angeline McCall reporting. Thank you, Angeline. Just a few days left in the state legislative session, so timing matters a lot. The decision by progressive Democrats to try and revive the governor's zoning density bill means that they are now spending time on something that they may not have the votes to pass. And Republicans are happy to do all they can to slow down the process.
So I think we ought to take a little time and read this bill at length.
First regular session, 74th General Assembly, State of Colorado re-engrossed.
And things just kind of grind to a halt while the computer voice reads the bill. House Republicans backed off their threat to slow down every possible bill with a long reading, but they're still doing it from time to time. Reading through a 99-page bill, all that legalese eats up a few hours of time. And that bill, along with every other, is up against a tight timeline. House sponsors of the governor's land use bill put back in the stuff that moderate Democrats in the Senate removed, like forcing cities to allow accessory dwelling units and increasing housing density along transit corridors. If this squeaks by the House, it still has to go back to be worked out in the Senate. So, you want to appeal that sky-high property assessment you got in the mail and try to lower your property taxes. Anybody can try to do it. It can be as simple as just sending back the card that came in the mail saying you dispute it, or you can write a full-blown report like the guy who talked to our Marshall Zellinger.
I was shocked to see that my home value in 2 years had gone up 81%.
It's deja vu all over again for Breck Larson, who 2 years ago appealed the increase to his Arapahoe County home property value.
So many houses have been updated in my area, and mine's not one of them.
That's why when he appealed in 2021, he sent the county 49 pages worth of documentation to prove his case.
Probably half of those 49 pages were pictures. I still have 1970s fixtures in my house. I have a turquoise bathroom. I have a harvest gold bathroom. I have asbestos in certain areas of the floor.
If you submit any information to us, we have to review it.
Arapahoe County Assessor P.K. Kaiser said his staff will review all documents, all 49 pages, to determine if a property value should be lowered.
Mostly it's the condition of property, any deferred maintenance, any structural issues.
Would you ever say don't waste your time?
Never ever.
County assessors are preparing for a record number of appeals. In 2021, Adams County saw 5,700 residential appeals. 41% of those resulted in a lower property value. Arapahoe County had 2,900 with a 48% success rate. Of 377 protests in Elbert County, homeowners won 65% of them. In Douglas County, nearly 1,500 people appealed with a 30% success rate. And in just 4 days this year, 1,329 homeowners have already appealed. That's almost the same number as all of 2021.
We fully expect to have at least 10,000, maybe 20,000 appeals this year.
Douglas County Assessor Toby Domish wants his residents to know they do not have to be as detailed as Breck's 49-page report.
It could have as little information on it as the value they want and their signature. And we will still do a full analysis.
Hopefully they will see that my house is not worth 81% more than it was 2 years ago.
The deadline to tell the county your house is crappy is June 8th. If you fail at the appeal like Breck did 2 years ago, you can go to the County Board of Appeals. He got about $50 off his home value at that stage in 2021. If you fail at that stage, you got three more options. The State Board of Appeals, you could take it to district court. Now you're paying some fees for that, or you can go to binding arbitration.
So just the arguments he was making about why his home was not as nice as they thought. I was taking notes. The door hits you on the knees when you're sitting on a toilet. That the panoramic picture made the bathroom look bigger than it was. That's the kind of minutia that's going to be in there?
He did not just that, not about his own home, but he found other homes, and I'm not sure if they were all the comparable ones that were on your notice, but he went to his neighborhood and said, look at these photos that I found online, and he had pictures of modern, updated stuff inside other people's homes compared to his.
Yeah, you see Joe's house, he can sit on the can without the door whacking him in the knees. So, all right, what's the harm, hypothetically, if everybody this year, because they went up so high, what happens if everybody appeals?
Anybody who works at the assessor's office getting mad right now saying, don't do it. That's like the harm is you tried and you failed, but it's going to give a lot of work to people who aren't used to this much work. But you know, so many people are going to do it right now. Why not? Why not?
If somebody thinks they have a good case, you know, if they want to, they should go for it. All right, toilet, the door hits you in the knees when you're sitting on the toilet. Thank you, Marshall. Governor Polis, he's a smart man. That does not mean, however, that Coloradans are dumb. Even the governor's harshest critics acknowledge his intelligence. The Independence Institute's John Caldera called Polis the most clever and dangerous governor we've ever had. Democrats, of course, would disagree on the dangerous part. But the point is, like or dislike Polis's politics, he's a smart guy. I hope he doesn't think the rest of us are dumb. Like earlier this week, when the governor proposed reducing property tax increases by using our own Tabor refunds, giving you some of your own money and claiming that he's saving you money. Come on. Coloradans may decide that that's the best possible outcome in this tough situation with property taxes. But we aren't dumb. It reminds me of last year. When Governor Polis renamed the Tabor refunds that he once tried to take away, he called them the Colorado Cash Back so that he could take credit for moving them up before Election Day. Again, decide for yourself if you like that policy, but we aren't dumb. Governor Polis is faced with complicated problems that don't always have easy win-win solutions. He has the intelligence to handle complex issues and difficult trade-offs. And you know what? Coloradans do too. The state Supreme Court will consider the case against the defendant in the Green Valley Ranch arson that killed a whole family, and that court's decision could change the way that investigators use technology to find suspects. A family of Senegalese immigrants were killed on Truckee Street in GVR 3 years ago. The case was cold until Denver police served a reverse warrant on Google. They were looking for anyone who had searched that address on Truckee Street. The search results led to the arrest of 3 teenagers, including Gavin Seymour. In pretrial hearings, a judge in Denver ruled that the reverse warrant was legal. Seymour's lawyer appealed to the state Supreme Court. He argues the search violates the Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable search and seizure, says it was too broad because it involved too many online accounts. Our legal analyst Scott Robinson says this case is a real test of modern policing.
The law always is playing catch up to technology, and traditional Fourth Amendment concepts don't really translate that well in the digital age. And no matter which way they rule, it's going to have enormous consequences for future investigations.
State Supreme Court is expected to decide on this issue in the next few months. So tonight, Boulder City Council is going to decide whether or not to remove a member of Boulder's police oversight panel for being too critical of police. Lisa Sweeney Moran's only been on that police oversight panel a few months, and she's been under investigation for most of that time. The city hired special counsel to look into complaints that she should not have been put on the panel due to anti-police bias. She has been critical of law enforcement, and she's supportive of alternatives like co-responder programs. Sweeney Moran says, yes, scrutiny is part of the job of police oversight. Special counsel, though, recommended that Sweeney Moran either resign or be removed from the panel because of her quote-unquote perceived or actual bias. Boulder City Council votes tonight.
Some medical providers don't want to do reproductive and trans health care. They don't have to. A new proposal will make them be upfront about it. And a rare sound in Coors Field, excitement.
Activities are a dime a dozen, but an experience changes lives. We want this to be an experience.
So much of an experience, the FAA closed the airspace over Coors. That's next.
Medical professionals who provide abortion services and gender-affirming care in Colorado got more protection under state law with a recently passed bill. Hospitals and clinics don't have to provide that care, and sometimes that comes as a surprise to patients. A bill nearing final passage in the House would require medical providers to disclose what they don't do. The bill's Democratic sponsors point to services like tube tying and vasectomies, gender-affirming procedures, and end-of-life care. It's a problem that patients could run into at Catholic hospitals, which ban those procedures based on religious guidelines. The bill would require that hospitals disclose online and to patients any services that they deny for non-medical reasons. Supporters of this idea, like AARP Colorado, say it's not about forcing the hospitals to do this stuff. It's about helping patients make informed decisions.
Let's suppose that a patient has decided that they don't wish to have any care for a terminal illness, say metastatic cancer of some sort. They don't want to go to a hospital that might not honor the request to have only palliative care.
The Hospital Association of Colorado lobbied for an amendment that would require hospitals to only tell patients of their policies if the patient was seeking a specific service that the hospital doesn't provide, as opposed to like, here's a menu of stuff we don't do here. If that amendment passes the House, the bill goes to the governor.
The thunderstorms arriving on cue right there about 4:30. Whew, they rumbled right on through the downtown Denver metro area, bringing us a little bit of rain, but some incredibly gusty winds. Still some dark skies off to the distance. Winds 20 to 30 miles per hour currently, but as we look at some of these reports, easily 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts charging across Centennial Airport through downtown Denver, Lone Tree as well. Most of the action now positioned across the northeastern plains. Still a few isolated showers starting to push off to the north and to the east, but again, all that lightning positioned across the panhandle of Nebraska. Tonight, we're watching all those showers shifting out of the state. By about 11 o'clock, we're done. It's over. And then we'll be looking at some sunshine building in tomorrow. Thunderstorms will be a bit more isolated tomorrow afternoon, confined across the northeastern plains. Looks like a dry afternoon for us. However, the clouds will start to pour in yet again for your Friday afternoon. Bullseye for trouble is going to be right there around the I-80 corridor into Nebraska, and then far southeastern Colorado has to deal with incredibly strong winds. Hence the reason we're tracking high fire danger with red flag warnings and potentially a fire weather watch continuing for the weekend. Highs back to the 70s and 80s for many of us here in eastern Colorado. A little cooler for the weekend. Isolated storms out there with a better chance next Wednesday and Thursday.
Not a long time ago, In a sky not far, far away, students launched something toward the galaxies. A science experiment so sweet, they had to make sure no planes were overhead. Next.
The FAA typically diverts air traffic around Coors Field during a game so that airline passengers aren't accidentally subjected to seeing the Rockies play. Today, the FAA cleared the airspace without the team on the field for just about 10 minutes to make way for a weather balloon launch. It was STEM day at Coors. A bunch of kids who were too young to get sloshy on the party deck watching bad baseball instead learned about science.
Science can be really fun and not just boring.
Without any further wait, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Spangler, the science guy.
You know, I tell teachers all over the country that activities are a dime a dozen, but an experience changes lives.
3, 2, 1.
We want this to be an experience.
The experiments make it just like 10 times more fun.
Wow!
I really want to grow up and be like a scientist or an archaeologist.
You'll actually see that black bag start to get tighter and tighter because the energy from the sun is heating up the air.
We need scientists and engineers. We need critical thinkers. We need them to sign on the dotted line 15 years from now because we can't take from other countries. We have to have these scientists and engineers in the highest positions here in the United States. So that's why there's so much on the line.
There is the bag of potato chips.
A bag of Lay's chips.
We want to know what altitude a bag of chips will explode. We got cameras up on the weather balloon to be able to see that today.
Lift off! Here it goes, ladies and gentlemen. Wow!
Sir, we are at 6,200 feet and ascending at 1,194 feet per minute.
It's just so fun watching things blow up.
Oh my God.
We want them sitting in the stands, feeling the explosions. We want them inspired to think about science in a different way.
I just love it. I just love science.
Ta-da!
Day outside of school, explosions, check and check. We'll have your feedback next. It's a sign, and it is sending mixed signals to horses. A viewer named Melissa spotted the sign at Sandstone Ranch. That's the open space in Larkspur. It says horseback riders have the right of way on that top sign, but then just look down and it says no horseback riding allowed. So what, it's just like horses without riders, like hanging out on the trail? I don't know. That's confusing. Melissa says she's not sure whether she yields to the riderless horses or she tells them to get out of the park. I don't know. If you see a sign that makes you do a double take, email next@9news.com. Jim thinks that I have lost the plot on the property tax plan. He says, Kyle, when they cut taxes, they save you money on taxes. Same as sending you back money from a fund. Apparently you don't understand that. Jim continues, perhaps be like Kerry Lake in Arizona and run for office. Results would be the same. Damn, Jim, that's harsh. Here's the deal. That fund that you refer to, that's the surplus fund. Your Tabor refund. That is money that would have been refunded to you. It's not like another pot of government money. That's why the plan involves handing you back your own money you are going to get and asking for a gold star for it. See you next time.